Hey everyone, this is Mario from INSYDIUM, and in this tutorial we're going to create a very nice twister setup using the xParticles motion modifiers, and we will look how they interact with each other. So this idea was inspired by this video I saw where some guys placed fans around a fire in a certain angle, and they are creating a very nice tornado effect. And I thought it could be possible in xParticles as well. So I tried to rebuild this setup, and here you see the result of it. So the particles are forced upwards in a circular motion, and this twister setup is pretty fast, and you can use it in very different ways, and let's check them out. So as you can see, I used this technique to create this fluid twister over here using the XP Skinner. Then later I rendered the particles to create this nice lava effect, or snow particles falling down and getting sucked up into this twister. And in the end I used the XP generator to create this very nice fish school over there. So we will look into this as well. Alright, so let's jump into Cinema 4D and let's create a new scene. Go to xParticles, XP System, and let's create a new emitter. Let's change the emitter shape to circle and rotate it back 90 degrees. Increase the radius a bit. And we want to have them with no speed at the beginning. And change the display mode to lines and give it a white color. Alright, so now we want to create this very nice fan rig over here. So therefore we use the motion modifier wind, and it's accelerating our particles. And to create this radial formation, we can make use of the very nice MoGraph cloner and put the wind in there. And when we change this to radial and the plane axis to XZ, we can now increase the radius, and let's make it 9 fans. And in the transform settings we can now rotate them, and this is going to be our particle rotation later on, and we want to have them going upwards, like 23 is a nice value over there. Alright, so now you see it's still not working because it's in the cloner. So let's just duplicate that, hit C to convert them, and deactivate the old ones. And now you see that the forces are driving the particles from all directions and resulting in this upstream. And we can limit that by using a fall off. And let's use the cone fall off and increase the size a bit. So we get this kind of eye of the storm over here. So now we should see something happening. Alright, let's hide the fall-offs. And now we see that they are spinning around, but they get dragged away. And to fix this, I found a trick you can use using another modifier, and here's an example how it works. So in this scene we have a turbulence that's affecting a lot of particles, and when we use the XP speed modifier and have a maximum speed there, we can now limit the motion, and the forces still remain, but the particles are slower, so they are closer together. And this is actually what we need for our setup as well. So let's get back to our scene. Let's go to Modifiers, Motion Modifiers, Speed, and let's change the particle speed change. We don't need that anymore, to 0. and this clamp maximum speed will be our speed limit. And now you will see what happens when we go down. You see that the particles are driven upwards in the stream, and let's increase the wind strength now, like make it 1000, and now we can get back some of this speed limit, and you see they're going upwards, and this is exactly what we need later on. So let's change the scene length like to 600, so they're floating a little bit longer. And now we want to create a little bit of turbulence over there to have a nice natural look. And to do that, you can go to the xpWind again and increase the turbulence settings over here. Like 23, like 30 is pretty nice. And now something happening over there. The particles are catched and spinned around, and the turbulence can be changed as well. So let's a lower frequency and the turbulence scale as well. So now you see that's a very nice vortex going up, and that's basically our twister setup. And right now the particles are moving away, so let's add a gravity here. Motion modifiers gravity over here, and it's getting pretty wild here, so let's decrease the value a bit, and you see you can limit the height of the twister now by adjusting this gravity. Let's make it a little bit higher, lower. Alright. Right now, if you want to change the radius of the fan setup over here, you have to make the cloner again and realign it. But with a little bit of espresso, we can make that procedural. So the node setup we are going to use is basically the same as baking a MoGraph animation into an object hierarchy. So therefore let's create an espresso tag and drop in our cloner object and our hierarchy. And let's rename the cloner to control and the hierarchy to fan rig. Then we will need a hierarchy node, an object index, and a MoGraph data node. Alright. So let's connect the hierarchy to the object index. Then we connect the indices of the data node. Then we need an object port for this, connect that to the data node, and the fan rig needs the object port as well. So we can connect the object index to that, and the global matrix over here and on the data node. And now they should be connected. Let's check that out. And let's grab our control, and here we can now change the radius instantly in real time, and we can also change the direction of the twister or the spin amount. And now we should be ready to create different styles with it. So now we're going to create the snow twister over here, and let's go into our scene. Let's create a plane and increase the size a little bit. Then add a displacer object, put it beneath, and let's change the shading and add a noise shader. Let's go into the noise settings and set this global scale to like 3000, and let's increase the height a little bit. Alright, then let's go and kill the emitter, and let's add another one. Let's go to object mode and change this to our plane. And let's emit from the polygon area. Let's see. All right. And now they have initial speed, so let's change this to 0. And let's change the display mode to a circle. And give it a random color from gradient. Let's give it a light gray. And another light gray. Something like this. And now they're falling down, so let's just add a collider tag to our plane. And let's decrease the bounce and add a little bit of friction. All right. And now let's change this to shot mode. And let's change this to 5000. So it's still fast. And now we can just grab our system and place it over here. Add a keyframe. Let's go a little bit further. And add a keyframe over here as well. And now you see the particles are getting catched by the forces. And it's moving upwards. And let's go a little bit slower. Let's move the keyframe over here. And now you can just increase the particle count to like 50,000. And let's go to our rig and decrease the radius a bit. All right, let's do a little bit less. All right, and now you see our twister is approaching and it's dragging up the particles pretty nicely. All right. So that's basically the snow twister setup. And now let's have a look on the next one. To create such a spinning fish glue like here, we can now use our twister setup in combination with the XP generator. So let's get back to our scene. And let's just hit play. Let's change the emission to 100. And let's reduce the speed by changing the overall timing to like 30%, 40. All right. And let's hide the fans so we see the particles better. And now we can just change the display mode to arrows. And the rotation, we want the particles to follow their path. So let's go to the extended data and activate use rotation and set the rotation mode to tangential. And now the arrows should follow their path in motion. All right. So let's quickly change the radius of the particles to 3 centimeters and a variation of 1. So a little bit of variation in there. All right. And now we want to create geometry for those particles. And therefore we can just grab any kind of model. For example, this one. And here you see that the fish is not rigged or animated, but we can use the very nice wind effector, put that into our fish model. And you see that it's acting kind of a fish movement here. So let's change the frequencies to like a 10 and move around this wind modifier. And here you can decrease the amplitude to like 10 as well. All right. Let's put that directly on the head. All right, now we have our swimming fish. Let's copy that. Let's go into our scene and paste the fish. And now we want the particles to be fishes. So let's go to the generator, create an XP generator, assign the emitter, and drag our fish into the generator. All right, right now they are all pretty big, so let's change the particle scale to use the radius. All right, And let's change the clone type to render instances, so we have a faster feedback, and the draw mode to geometry and particles. Alright. So right now, if we want to rotate the fishes to be correctly, right now it only affects the source fish. So let's put that into a null object, press Alt G. And let's move that down so we don't see the big one here. Alright. And now we can go into our scene and rotate the fishes according to the particle rotation. And we can increase them as well, like scale of 3. Alright. And let's move that out of our scene again, like 2000, something like this. Alright. And now you see that the fishes are looking upwards or flipped. And this is called banking in general, and we can avoid that by using another modifier. Let's go to Modifiers, Motion Modifiers, and use the XP limit. And this feature is made to avoid such kind of banking, especially when creating fish schools. And now the fishes are always looking correctly assigned. Alright. And the only thing that's missing is a little bit of randomization, because they all swim the same. So let's just duplicate our fish. And let's go to the wind modifier and change the axis over here and a little bit of the amplitude and the frequency. And let's just create another one. And the XP generator is using randomly from those fishes. So here we can use this as well. A little bit of frequency change, the amplitude down. So now you should have a nice randomization on the fish school over here. Alright, and that's basically how you create a fish school with our twister. And now we can go to our last scene. So here we are going to create this fluid twister. So let's go back into a scene. And let's grab the emitter and change the radius a bit. And now the particles are falling down, so let's just create a plane, increase the size, and add a collider tag to it. Alright. And we want to have all the particles around get sucked into the middle as well, so let's create a motion modifier, attractor. And let's see what it does. Alright. And we want to restrict the forces with a fall off. Let's add a cylinder fall off, scale it up, and change the height around the floor. Alright. So now we're sucking all in. Alright, now we can increase the birth rate of the emission to like 5000 and decrease the radius of our rig. So we get a thinner twister. Alright. So now we want to create this extra streaks from the setup, and therefore I duplicate the system. But before we do that, let's go to the emitter, go to modifiers, and here we have a very powerful option. Only modifiers in same system. So if we create more systems, the modifiers are only affecting the emitters within the system. So let's just duplicate that. Let's go back to the beginning and decrease this radius over here. And let's place it around here. And let's go into the emitter and change this to ring only. So the particles are getting emitted by the ring. And let's decrease the emission something like 800 and a little bit of variation. And now let's duplicate that. And let's arrange them around the core. Alright, So now we have some extra particles in our twister, and we want to have them a little bit outside, so we can go easily to our rig and increase the size a little bit. And now they're floating around pretty nicely. Alright, and now we want to have this meshed. And therefore we can just add the very nice xparticles skinner object. And there we can just drag our emitters in. And let's go to the beginning so it's a little bit faster. And select all those emitters, drag them in, and unlock it again. So now the mesh is created. And I found some very nice settings for this fluid. So let's go to the XP Skinner and change the surface to fluid. Let's increase the surface level to 100. So we have every particle is generating some mesh. And let's decrease the polygon size to 5 as well. And now we have those density options. Alright, let's hide this. And now we're getting a little bit more connections there when we decrease this maximum value. Alright. And now we can increase the scale again. So like make it 250. And then we can add a little bit of smoothing here, but just enabling this. Alright. Let's try a smaller polygon size, like 4. Alright, that's a little bit more dense. That's looking pretty nice already. So let's just deactivate it for now and play back our scene a little bit further. Something like this. Even a little bit more. And now we can just enable our skinner. Alright. And now we want to create a very nice translucent look like this. And therefore let's start with a duplicate of the skinner and hit C to convert it. And now we can deactivate this one, and this is pretty fast to work with now. And let's create a light, an infinite light, and move it over here. So create a very nice lighting edge and a little bit from above. And let's change the color to a nice blue. And then let's create another light and give it an orange color, something like this, and create an edge from the other side. Alright, so let's check that out. Alright, we're missing the shadows. Let's go to the shadow tab, enable the shadows, and increase the shadow map a little bit more. Alright, so now let's create a new material, put that on a skinner, and open the material editor. Alright, sorry. And let's decrease the color so we don't really need it, because we are creating a subsurface scattering material. Enable the luminance, go to effects, subsurface scattering, and let's just see what it does. Alright, here we see some translucent material appearing. Alright, let's go into the settings and let's change the preset to another one. I like this Spectralon pretty much. And let's increase the strength to 300, so boost it up. And let's check that out. Let's put in, looking even better. And now we can increase the light intensities. Let's make this to 150 and this to 200. Let's check that out again. It's pretty nice. And now we can just increase the shadow density. So shadow density, so our mesh is catching more shadow. Alright, let's apply that to the floor as well. Alright, that's pretty nice already. And now we can add a little bit of reflection there. Just go through the reflectance channel, add a GGX, and let's take a layer for now, the electric, and let's just take the jade. And also we want to have the specular a little bit more sharp, so let's create an inner width, increase the height, and make something like this, so it's very sharp. Alright, let's check that out. And actually we can, at this point we can change our render mode to the physical renderer. And let's change this to progressive so we have a very fast feedback. Let's hit render. Alright, it's already looking pretty good. And the last thing we can do is go into the luminance in our subsurface scattering and decrease the pathing so the light doesn't go through so much. Alright, and let's check that out. And now we're getting already pretty nice looking mesh over here. And now we can just decrease a little bit of the lighting. Alright. So let's go back and put on our skinner. And let's hide this one. Display was seen further. Alright, and let's create a mesh for that. And when you render this, you see that the material looks darker than what we created before. So we can change that as well by putting the skinner into a connect object. And let's put that into there and the material as well. And let's hit render. And now we're getting back this brightness over there. Alright, that was the xpWind Twister tutorial, and we see us in the next one.